So, we are here today on February 18th, 2024 with Richard Lynn Christensen. Brother Christensen was the bishop of the Kearny Ward between 1986 and 1991. Thank you, Brother Christensen, for being willing to visit with us a little bit. We chatted a little bit before this interview, and I'd like you maybe to tell us a little bit about your story, where you came from growing up, and how you got to Kearny.
Well, I grew up in Pleasant Grove, Utah. Went on a mission to Northern States Mission, which is Illinois. I spent all my time in Illinois. We had a bunch of other places there, but then got married and to a young lady from Pleasant Grove. We were married in 1972. I got drafted in the Army, and so that I said 1972, it was really 1968. and in 72 we got drafted in the Army, spent 2 years in the military traveling around. Went back to BYU, graduated with a mechanical engineering degree there. Went to El Paso, Texas, then to Salt Lake Central Engineering Headquarters. Went out to Omaha, Nebraska, built an ammonium oxide plant out there. Back to Central Engineering, and then down to Kearny, Arizona, which we enjoyed being down in Kearny. Some of my memories from Kearny, I guess, you reminded me of the flood in '83. That was on my birthday in October 2nd of '83. I remember a family, I home taught. I drove out to see how they were doing, and they lived in Riverside, and from their highway on this side, all I could see was their chimney sticking out of the water. So they were.
Do you remember which family that was? I said I want to quiz you on names.
Yeah.
But
It's getting my brain right now, but it will come to me.
Okay.
But
what was that? What was the experience of the floods like? And did you get to help participate in some of the efforts to help the people in the floods?
Well, we especially those people on Riverside, I knew them quite well, and I remember going over in Winkleman, the flood there, to a lady there. We spent the day mucking out her house and trying to make it livable again. It was quite an experience. But
what was it like if you grew up in Utah, and some of the places you've been are certainly much larger than Kearny? What was it like bringing your family to Kearny? What was that experience like?
Well, we've always liked small towns, and so this gave the kids opportunities to do things in school, both academically and athletically, and my kids all had some good experiences here. It was a good place to raise kids, even though there wasn't very many other members here. Everything seemed to be positive. There's negatives to every place you're at, but Kearny was a good place to be.
Were there any particular stake activities that made a difference for your kids growing up here?
Well, there were always youth dances, and I felt like Kearny, when come time for Kearny to put on the youth dance, we pretty well went all out and had some good activities. I remember one time a bit of inspiration. We were going to have a dance up in Dripping Springs instead of Kearny, and we had told the stake, but somehow the word didn't get to the right people. And I remember going through Winkleman, and after we passed this van, something just kept telling me that was the Globe people, and I ignored it for about a mile up the road, and finally I told my wife, I says, we got to go back. I think everything's telling me that was Globe, and we went back, and I felt like there was some inspiration there to go back and get them to the right place.
So they were going to the
they were going
chapel
to church, and we were going to have it up at Brad Baker's place, and it was an outdoor activity in Dripping Springs. So, but it was anyway. I remember that, and a lot of dances, taking kids to dances all the time, and I always enjoyed whenever the young ladies would go to Young up there on that area. I guess that's Workman's Creek. I'd always volunteer to go pick up some girls, and that gave me an opportunity to take my youngest one up, and we'd spend the night up there, and then haul some girls back home the next day. So, but anyway, there were a lot of good activities. We took the young men to Utah one time, and that was fun. We spent the first time up in the Uintas, hiking around in different places, and got soaked really bad. And I didn't. I happened to be with the front group, and we got to the next lake we were going to in time to set up a tarp I had, and we stood underneath the tarp thinking about how everybody was getting drowned. But the next day we went to Wyoming to Neil Nebeker's mother's place to use her dryer to dry everybody out, and then we went rafting down the Green River, and it was fun. My biggest memory there was when we first got out. I told everybody that there was not to splash any water on anybody because this was cold water, and I don't know what they thought I had this milk jug for. I had a milk jug with the top cut out of it, and as soon as we pulled out, I got it full of water and hit the other raft. Everybody right smack in the face, and you could just see the expressions on their face, like, could the bishop really have lied to us? And the whole way down we were fighting water fights, and anybody, I told them they couldn't water fight with anybody unless the other person started it. And I remember somebody coming down decided to kind of hit their oar just a little bit, splash a little bit of water on our group, and they felt sorry for it because they just got drowned. They started it, so. And then the next day we only had 2 rafts. We turned one of them back in, so I went down and was waiting for our group to come in, and they didn't come in, and we asked college kids if they'd seen them. They said, yeah, we saw them. We did battle with them, and we lost, and we got out of there. And then here come our group, and it looked like one of those things where you see in New York where the tugboats are spraying water in the air, and there was just water flying everywhere as they were fighting with other rafts. And anyway, it was fun to see the desert rats get out and be into the water. Yeah. Anyway, we had a lot of good experiences like that.
So, no doubt, you probably still had relatives up in Utah.
Yes.
And so you and your wife were basically able to raise your family here in Kearny.
My wife's sister lives here now. She moved down while we were living here. We got her husband a job down here, and anyway.
Do you feel like your children had sufficient opportunities to develop in the church here compared to, say, what you saw up in Utah with maybe friends or relatives that were still up there?
Oh, I mean, definitely this was a good place to raise kids. My 2 sons both went on missions, and they married local girls, Kearny girls, and they're doing really, really well.
Now, when we were visiting before we began taping, you mentioned that you had an opportunity to leave Kearny at some point and didn't. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, when I moved down here, a circle told me I'd be here about 7 to 8 years, and after I'd been here about 12 years, the vice president came to me and said, "We'd like to move you back up to Utah and have you take over the construction arm." And I told him, "Well, let me tell you a story." I said, "Last week my wife told me she was mad at me." And I asked her, "Why are you mad at me?" And she says, "I had a dream last night that you were moving me back to Kearny." And I says, "You don't want to go?" And she says, "Not now." She says, "The grandkids are down here." So I told him, I guess, "Did you get your answer?" And she says, "I guess I did." And as luck would have it, about 3 years later, they shut the entire Central Engineering headquarters down. And if I'd been up there, I would have lost my job. So it was good to have stayed.
Now, eventually you did leave the Kearny Ward. Where did you go after Kearny?
We moved to Pima. We still are in Pima. We just we felt like with getting older, it would be nice to have hospitals around. And my wife, she liked the fact that there was a Walmart somewhere close, and it's a shopping area, and so we made the move. But I guess we didn't so much miss Kearny as much as we missed the Kearny Ward. So,
well, it's certainly good to see you today. Are there any other memories of this Globe Stake or the Kearny Ward that you'd like to share with us?
I can't think of a whole lot. I sure liked working with President Blake. He and I, we got to be pretty good friends, I thought, but we thought a lot alike. So.
Great. Well, before we end, would you be willing to leave a brief testimony with us?
Sure. The gospel's put a lot of positive things in my life. And I'm grateful for those opportunities that I've had. I have a testimony of Jesus Christ and our Savior as our Savior, and I'm thankful for the sacrifice that He has done for us. I have a testimony of Joseph Smith was a prophet. I'm just grateful for directions given in my life that the gospel's given, and I have the opportunity now of working in the temple in the Gila Valley, and it's just a joy to be able to go and serve there and to meet people there. Anyway, that's probably.
Well, thank you very much for visiting with us, and thanks for being here today.
Okay.